Hi, this is Bill Wolf, and I'm with Geoff Hynes. Geoff is the president and CEO of REXA. Geoff, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Bill.
Frankly, a lot of people that are watching this podcast today may not know who REXA is. So could you give us an overview of who REXA is, Geoff?
Well, sure. A little more history on it. 1981, it was really set up as a shell corporation. And Robert Glamos started doing R&D in his basement, in his garage of his home. And he basically was involved in a lot of control valve design modifications. He was involved in the CanFlex design, the high performance butterfly valve developments. And he determined that, look, there's another way to look at process control, not necessarily just from the control valve design and trying to improve the controllable range of a valve, assuming it must use a pneumatic actuator. He wanted to look at it from the actuator perspective and say, okay, well, something has to kinetically respond to a command sent by the brain. We look at a process control system like a human body. So he said, an actuator is really the muscle of the process plant, and it must respond. So he had some ideas. He brought them to the board of directors at Mason-Elin and said, I want to develop this technology, and they shot him down. So he believed in it so much that he quit. He quit. Yeah. He walked away from the president role at Mason-Elin and started REXA in his garage of his home, trying to develop the technology that we use today.
Wow.
And in about 1984, 85, he hired away the head of R&D from Mason-Elin to help him develop this flow matching valve, what we use. And they spent about another 4 years, 5 years in the sandbox making this thing work before we actually made one, in 1988, 89, and put some field trials in place. So effectively, the company started in 1989 as far as, putting stuff in the field. High failure rates, not standard design, a lot of problems and issues that got worked out, but they worked those things out. And really it is a technological breakthrough in fluidic circuitry and the way we control it compared to any other technology available. And really what it allows us to do is to reduce the magnitude of sine waves in customers' process control plants. So it controls extremely well. And what we try to do is to partner with the end user and improve their efficiency by stabilizing their control, improving their control, and reducing the magnitude of their sine waves. And we do that with very deep understanding of the customer processes, how they're going to apply the product, what it's going to be applied to, what process it's going to be inserted into. So we're not just a commodity actuator company. We're really doing our best to understand the total process control behind what it's going to be doing. I mean, there have been huge technological advances in DCS control, sensors, transmitters, the eyes, the ears of the process. The brains get bigger, the brains get smarter. And all that's great. But if you're still connecting that to a, 30 or 40-year-old final control element for a muscle, you're not going to utilize the benefit of all the advances in technology. So he wanted to close that loop and put a final control element in place that would allow the users to realize the benefits of all the other advancements in process control technology.
Geoff, I got to tell you, I love the loop what you just said about the loop, because I've actually challenged customers sometimes with that. I'll say, you know what, you've got a multi-million-dollar DCS, you got a multi-million-dollar process, and we're looking at a valve or an actuator on a valve, and you're worried about investing X more dollars in something that's going to improve your process XXX. And so there you go. I love looking at the cost of the loop, or the ownership of that. I like that a lot.
No problem. You're welcome.
Hey, so all right. So let's just go to a little bit about you growing up in the business, Geoff, if we could, just for a little bit. Your dad was the president of REXA at one time, so you grew up in the business. You you had a lot of different roles. Can you kind of share with us? I mean, did you start off by like sweeping the floors or what? Like where did you go, man? Like, what did you do?
Well, actually, my dad worked for Mason Allen for 25 years. And
I didn't know
before.
that.
And then he
Okay.
started a rep business in California. He was on the other side of the country, and then he moved back in the early 90s to take the job at REXA. He was here until about 2013. And yeah, he offered me a summer job because the lumber yard I was stacking wood at was going out of business. He said, "Hey, I got this job driving this trailer around, and part-time while I was in college too, working assembling products and sweeping the floor. I did a lot of sandblasting and bead blasting of metal components and things like that. But I would go on a run for 3 months on this new demo trailer that they had, which was some customers that are listening might have seen it recently, and it's not what it was back in 1996 when I started driving the thing. It was a 40 Econoline van, and it was manual. You pull the actuators out of the back of the thing, you pull a generator out and take it as far away from the van as you can so it's not too loud with the customers, and you physically set up all the units and plug them in. And I was the guy, all they did was show me how to operate the actuators, and I really still didn't know a plant or an actuator from a ham sandwich at that point. I was meeting the local reps who were supposed to be the experts, and some were better than others. And it was very interesting learning experience. And all I really had to do was make this actuator go up and down for the customers and show them how it worked. And all of a sudden, their tongues are hitting the floor and they're going, "Where have you been my whole life? Why didn't I know about this thing?"
Yeah.
And I'm going, I don't know. And he go, maybe, there's something to this, and that's really what sunk the hook in me for life on this thing, was the reaction that customers were giving over this thing that I was showing to them.
It's interesting, but you're right. Like when you show a REXA, when you get a chance to demo it in front of a customer, it's impactful. And quite frankly, as your rep, you got to show it. So, hey, before we leave this trailer thing, do you have a picture or like a before and after?
Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, this is the current trailer.
Okay.
And on the inside, it looks like it's all walk-in, push-button setup. Very, very easy compared to how I started. The original one, though, Bill.
Oh, go. Yeah, let's see the original one, brother.
It was this thing, and it was all manual.
So that's been a pretty good investment with REXA. Okay.
It is our best. It's always been our best marketing tool.
Yeah, by far. I've been with it several times in my career. I've probably had it out to probably about 12 to 18 of my customers, and you're right, it's an impactful tool. Moving forward, you've had jobs with REXA. You've been, if I remember correctly, you've been the director of sales. You've been in international sales as well with REXA. Is that correct, Geoff?
Correct.
So you're moving up in the organization. You're learning it. In 2018. You become the president and CEO. I've never been a president and CEO, but I have been a VP and I have been a director of sales at one time in my career. And I remember in both of those instances, I was looking at the organization going, okay, what are my challenges and how do I face those challenges? How can I help the organization? What are the challenges in front of you in 2018 and how did you manage through that?
Well, I'd always been in a sales role, right? On the trailer, manufacturing, I built the actuators part-time throughout my entire career. So I knew how they worked really well because I was building and testing them for years, But when I graduated, I moved to Texas and I was in an outside sales role dealing directly with customers and dealing with some local reps down there. And then I was in international sales for 7 years and then director of sales. And when I took over as the president, it was hard for me to adjust away from what I'd always done, which was, having the fun, presenting the product and seeing the reaction and solving problems for customers, And I had to look internally at the organization. And, understand everything about the operation of the organization and try and separate myself as much as I could from sales. I've never left it completely. When I first came in, we were still on trying to get back on the upswing from the 2016, 17. We had a significant dip in business there because we get a lot of business in oil and gas, and we had problems in that time in that market. So
Yeah.
our income was below the expectations of the owners. So yeah. We had to lay a few people off, and I had to do that within 6 months of taking over in the role, just a few people, which is, it's a heart-wrenching thing to do,
I do know, if I can just interject there, I'll tell you, as a former executive in those levels, again, not president CEO, but director of sales, VP levels in my career, I got to tell you, I think that's one of the hardest things to do as an executive. I really do.
It's still the hardest thing I had to do in my career. So.
Yeah, I got you on that. So you move the ship, you got the ship, you're moving in the right direction. Things are going on all cylinders. I heard you had a couple of record years, and all of a sudden the COVID thing hits, right? And I know you're a book reader, or we've shared that with each other, and I'm a book reader as far as business books. And there's no bestseller out there going, hey, how to manage a pandemic. So like all of a sudden you're in this pandemic, and how did you, as president and CEO, how are you managing through the challenges of that right now?
Well, after that initial trouble, business just came back and strong, and we just started blowing it out of the water, doing really well, focusing in hard into core markets, and things were just tracking like crazy, like breaking records,
Yeah.
And then this thing hit, and it's all of a sudden, come April is really when we started feeling it, I mean, our factory never closed because we're essential business, and we're supplying to critical infrastructure. I'm sure you're in the same thing, right?
We're in the same boat. Absolutely.
Power, water, fuel. Yep. I mean, these are things people need to survive. So
I think you mirror Eastern Controls mirrors exactly what you were just saying. And personally, I've been working in my home office for a long time, so it's really hasn't been a transition for me. But I think
for outside sales guys, we're used to it.
Yeah, we're used to it, right? So and it's great that you just said that. As us outside sales guys, see, dude, you're president and CEO, man, but you're always going to be a sales guy. You know what I mean? You're never going to lose that. I love it. So speaking of sales, right? What I'm looking at as a guy in the trenches and trying to, I'm going to say it this way. Bill Wolf, in his 40 years in this business, I've had to reinvent myself several times. Cliff always calls me, he says, Wolfie, he goes, you're a unicorn, and I've just had to evolve, right? So what do you see, Geoff, as a president and CEO of your company? How do you think this new dynamic is going to change the sales process?
I mean, how much we rely on physically showing that demo to people and up and down. So, but almost immediately our outside sales guys just connected from their home offices and set up demos and set up live web streaming and they're doing live demos, and we're doing training classes, and we're doing a lot of free training classes for end users for service that we used to charge money for, but it's not costing us a whole lot other than time. So, and we've done, 30 or 40, service training classes for customers, and we're adapting to it the best we can, and our sales guys are doing the best they can to stay in front of the end users and show them, what we think they need to understand about the potential of our technology.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to go. I think it's going to be a combination of still, we always call it, getting belly to belly with the customer, getting face to face with the customer. And I think that eventually that's going to come back to an extent. But I also think that the tools that we have on a virtual basis are going to be useful. So I think we're going to figure out ways to touch our customers and to interface with our customers as they most feel comfortable and is most efficient to deliver the message, right? So, because let's face it, at the end of the day, nothing happens until somebody sells something, right? You
Right.
know, we got to keep the sales moving.
And we
So
borrowed your unit too, to the thing
what's that?
podcast on Kyle, doing the the virtual training and the virtual maintenance, and you
Yeah.
guys loaned us a unit to play with. We appreciate that because we want to understand what the potential is for that and how we can implement that based on our business model. And thank you for that. And I like
No,
it.
it's
I like it.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's that podcast got a lot of interest, and like I said, we've had a few of our customers now embracing that. And yeah, you're right. It's another way to interface with your customer, another way to help, right? So
And that you could eliminate a field service trip with, eliminate them having to gain access to site, which is more challenging for everybody these days.
let's talk about REXA a bit. REXA is, I mean, of all the principles we represent, REXA is one of the more highly engineered. I mean, you really, it's a highly engineered product. Um, you've got to naturally innovate this product time and again. And to me, I would think that you have to look at applications and you solve problems, and then there's a payout to those problems, those problem solving things. And it's an actuator, so you're mounting them on existing equipment and then new equipment. That's kind of like a big ball of stuff there, but can you kind of talk to that a little bit, Geoff, about how you innovate and how you get the customer to show a payout and maybe quantify some of that? Because again, if I'm a customer looking at this podcast, and I learned this a long time ago from a salesman, a sales manager, when you make a comment, remember that the person you're talking to says, so what? What's in it for me? So Rexa does this. Well, so what? What's in it for me? What's my payout? So speak to that a little bit.
We started on retrofit, I mean, we never sold on a new project. I mean, it was a new technology, and everything we did for the first 5 or 6 years of the organization was convincing a customer that, his particular actuator that he was using, whether it electric, pneumatic, or central hydraulic unit, wasn't performing as good as what we could offer them. So we removed the actuator, installed it on an existing valve. And that's what we did for forever, right? Eventually, our business grew and we gained traction. And so now customers they have been standardizing on our product for, certain applications and projects. But still to this day, we probably do 40 to 50% of our business is retrofit, replacing existing actuators onto existing valves, solving customer problems. But those projects can get big now that customers like our technology, and they'll say, okay, we're going to build a new pipeline, or we're going to build a new plant of such design, and we're going to specify REXA for this, and this application. It's not for every application. Our technology is really well suited for faster process control loops like liquid pressures and flows, with short time constants. I mean, if you're doing a basic level control or a basic temperature control, use a pneumatic actuator. We're not trying to displace all other technologies. We're trying to fit our technology in where it's going to provide the most benefit for the customer. We're doing a lot more steam turbine speed controls, things like this, but any pressure or flow control, particularly with a liquid, I mean, it's a natural fit for our product.
Let's just put our salesman hat on for a second. Can you show a slide or two of some applications there you say, hey, this was something really innovative and there was some payout to it? Could we put our sales guys hats on for a second and
Unfortunately, my sales hat's always on, Bill.
Hey,
yeah, I got a couple pictures. I don't know how, these are just some favorites of mine. I don't know how particularly innovative they are, but I'll show you a couple.
favorites.
All right, so this is one from Texas. It's a boiler feed pump turbine in a supercritical coal-fired power plant, and this is the original GE steam turbine setup for the boiler feed pump turbine. And it's relatively typical, I would say. But inside there's stuff in here. The hydraulic cylinders pushing up on the lever to control the steam valve. This particular customer I spent a lot of time with, and all of our guys did, and they default to, can REXA help us with this? Because we built up, we replaced all their supercritical startup valve actuators and things like this, and ID and FD fans, and they said, okay, let's look at the feed pump turbines with REXA. Can they help us? This is what the inside of that box looks like here. So we removed this entire box and
Wow.
and we put in the entire hydraulic system, and we put in this self-contained REXA. And GE was involved in this, so they said, look, we want the triple redundant LVDTs strapped to the side of it. The order was going through them, so okay, we designed all that mounting for them to put whatever they required on here for their steam turbine controls. So this is a nice retrofit, and these things, they never stop moving, and they control really well. So I got
that's the example. I like that one. Go ahead.
It's a good one, yeah. One of my favorites is one from Arizona. We sell a lot there in the copper mines, and a lot of it's because of this actuator. This is we haven't made this type of actuator for 20 years. This particular configuration, but this was almost a prototype, and our rep sold it, and this thing ran for 24 years, controlling this acid flow through this butterfly valve. And they use REXA on butterflies because it increases their controllable range of the butterfly valve, and it's stable. You don't have the vane flutter that you get that pneumatics are affected by. But this thing ran for 24 years, Bill, with literally zero maintenance. They changed one electrical component in the box up there over 24 years, and it's been modulating for that long. Like, there's no other technology that I'm aware of that can do that. And it's these types of stories that keep me excited about this company.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what. I think you're going to show another one on another one coming up. But I'm just thinking as you're talking, I'm going, hey man, how many people out there watching this podcast have had the same car for 24 years? I did not anyone. Although I'll probably end up getting a picture from somebody going, hey man, I've been driving this one since blah, and I'll say, yeah, okay. You got one more to show, Geoff?
Yeah, I got one here. This is just to show the beating the technology can take, right? I mean, we can stick these things underwater in a lot of cases, but this is just a cement plant application, but you can see it's totally caked up and covered. And I have videos that, they don't really play out well on the podcast, but this thing's modulating, it's controlling. And it just takes a beating. And, we've done ROI examples on a lot of cases throughout every industry, and we're trying to do a lot better at that, get a lot better at understanding the value of our product. The end user understands it better than we do, but, if we want to take that message along, we can. We need to understand it better. And, like in cement as an example, this is not a kiln feed, but on a kiln feed application, we did a study, and basically replacing a pneumatic vane actuator with the REXA stabilized the kiln feed rate to a point where they could increase production. And we did all the math, and it was saving them or increasing their profits by $13 million a year for a $25,000 actuator.
Holy.
And we've run this through through experts and trade guys and end users all over the world, and run through the numbers, and none of them doubt it. Like, they believe, based on what we showed them and what the stabilization rates were and what the improved feed rates were, that number is legitimate. And that's just in a cement plant kiln feed. We have more significant examples in other industries.
Wow, I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us, Geoff. And I think, again, as people who are watching this podcast, it's like, hey, if they've got some difficult applications or applications where they want to control something better, I think they should reach out to us and have a dialogue. I think that's the message there for sure. I love it. Hey, so, all right. Some great applications. You're a sales guy. I love your energy here. It's like, okay, I'm talking to the president CEO, but it's like, dude, like, I am a sales guy, and I love it. Now you're the president CEO. How do how do you stay connected? How do you keep that heartbeat of the organization? Like how do you keep that pulse? Because I mean, to me, I think of companies and organizations as living things. There's a heartbeat to it. How do you stay connected to your organization, Geoff?
Well, staying connected to the people for me now is what I've gotten better at and what I've worked on. Staying connected to the market and the end users is what I haven't really lost, I don't think. I've traveled a lot less, but I'm still visiting customers. I'm visiting end users on, certain cases, certain situations. I'm still basically handling China, and Japan customers. That's where our parent company is. And, I've actually assigned to every director in the organization that they must visit the end user this coming year. And then COVID hit, and it's like, okay, so one of their goals that I set for them this year is going to take a little longer to complete, but I want every director in this organization to meet with our end users and actually ask them questions and ask them how we can do better for them. What are we doing good? What are we doing bad? How can we improve? So that's actually an official goal of every director in the organization for this calendar year. But it's starting off slow with COVID. So. And I mean, if they have one account they have to visit, I have 5 accounts I have to visit. So,
yeah, I like that because you're staying in connection with your customer base. I mean, you have your rep network and all that, but as a rep with you guys and as a rep that represents many manufacturers through my career, I think it's really important to get your regionals, your directors, and sometimes the president and CEO in front of a customer. I think customers really value that. So I'm happy. I love the fact that you're doing that, Geoff. So here you are. Where's your 5-year vision, man? Like, where are you going to be in 5 years with REXA?
Well, hoping to stabilize and ultimately reduce the sine waves of our business. I mean, I talk about the process control, but we're spread across a pretty wide marketplace, and we can do better to diversify a little bit. We have a little too much weight in the oil and gas industry right now, a little too much reliability there. So we're trying to increase our market shares in like water and wastewater and geothermal power and some other areas that will not be as affected by certain swings in the marketplace. And our business historically has done a lot of ups and downs, generally up. But I just want to reduce the magnitude of that sine wave and have consistent growth for the organization, and hopefully double the business size in 5 years, and increase our capacity to understand the customer's process issues. We need high-level technical people that understand more than just actuators. We're not just an actuator company. We have people, we hire people that worked in refineries, that dealt with the whole thing, and we're going to continue to do that to really understand the end user's pain and how we can help them.
It's interesting you're saying that, and I'm going to go here I'll bring this with you for a second. You hired a rotating equipment guy, and I actually had him one of my refineries one day, and it was a totally different conversation. It was excellent. So,
yeah, Dave Nelson, he worked for CCC for 20 years. I mean, this guy is a turbo machinery expert, and we were able to get him from CCC, and he brings a high level of legitimacy, and people understand that he understands, and he's helping us understand. He's improving the level and capability of our entire team.
It was a totally different conversation with him, with the customer at the time. It was a bunch of reliability engineers, and he just talked the talk. So you're right. Hi, that wraps up my interview with Geoff Hynes. At the end, we started having some technical difficulties, but I didn't want to lose that podcast. I didn't want to lose the energy in the interview and the honesty of the interview with Geoff. It was really awesome. So I want to thank Geoff Hynes for coming on, and I want to thank you folks out there for watching and listening to this podcast. And We'll see you in the future.